Just another manic Monday. Wait, it's Sunday. Why am I here? Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Yep, it's Sunday and we're still working, but I better get used to it because next Sunday is Packers football, baby. Grossi. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about. First, starting off with things that were announced today about Adrian Peterson going to the Lions. You have Jadeveon Clowney going to the Titans. And I wanted to circle back a little bit and talk also about Deshaun Watson getting paid, Trey White getting paid. Oh yeah, and Mitch Trubisky being the starter of the Chicago Bears. Sorry, I thought I could get through that. Before we get to that, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to Jim B. Hates Puppies, upping his $12 membership to the $15, joining the Elusive Beer Masters tier. And Jim B, honestly, I'm disappointed. I thought you were better than that. And also on the YouTube member side, want to thank John Wayne Everett. A big shout out and thank you to you both. So let's start out with the news that broke early this morning that Jadeveon Clowney, after going back and forth and where is he gonna sign, has finally decided to play for the Tennessee Titans. He has signed a one-year deal with the Titans worth up to $15 million. And this doesn't mean that the Saints didn't try. Apparently they called up late at night and they were like, hey, Jadeveon, you still up? You want to play for New Orleans? Oh my God, it's early Sunday morning. But apparently the Saints offered him $2 million less than what the Titans offered him. And so he goes, no, I'm going to go where the money is. And Jadeveon Clowney, even though he was dealing with a bunch of injuries, he's actually coming off a core muscle injury and he had surgery for it. He's still one of the best rushers in the NFL. He's constantly pressuring the quarterback. And this is kind of just like a prove-it deal. Now, this is very different because obviously after he went to Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks were like, oh yeah, maybe we'll re-sign him. And Jadeveon Clowney was like, I want $20 million a year. And they're like, ha ha ha, take a walk. So this basically sets up Clowney to have this year be a prove-it year, in which can he come back, be his old dominant self, which I think he can be considering he's partnering up with Mike Vrabel again. The last time that Clowney was with Vrabel, it was in Houston when Vrabel was the defensive coordinator for the Texans and Clowney had his best year. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's utilized and if he's able to get a long-term deal based off his performance this year. The Titans were one of those teams that I projected that Clowney could end up with earlier this offseason because they didn't really address pass rusher in the draft, and so it makes that Titans defense even better, and I think it continues to propel them to being contenders this year. And at 27 years old, yeah, Clowney has a really realistic shot of getting a 3-year deal to kind of finish out the prime of his career with the Tennessee Titans. Then in other news, you had Adrian Peterson. He's back, going and signing with the Detroit Lions. He was released by Washington last week, and he has now signed a 1-year, $1,050,000 deal plus incentives with the Detroit Lions. At 35 years old, I mean, the guy still has it. Now, I will say, over in Washington, they really didn't have much else, but 2 years ago, he was putting over 1,000 yards in a season. So last year, he went 898 yards for 5 touchdowns. And I think that the bigger story here is not just AP coming back to the Lions, is what the hell is that backfield now? Because looking at their 53-man roster, not including the fullback, they already have 4 running backs on the team, right? They have DeAndre Swift, who they just drafted, Kerryon Johnson, Ty Johnson, and Bo Scarborough. They even have a fullback thrown on there. And so now with bringing Adrian Peterson in, it's going to be interesting to see if they make a cut here and maybe potentially let one of these guys go. But it made a muddled backfield even more muddy. A lot of people assume that even though Kerryon Johnson did well, he was dealing with injuries, DeAndre Swift was going to kind of be that guy. I know I picked him up in, I think, all of my fantasy leagues, so that's fun. Thanks, AP. But I think with the experience of AP, he also has some familiarity with the coaches there. I think that AP will be a good fit for the Lions, and he can kind of pave the way for DeAndre Swift where he doesn't have to take on a full load right away. And plus, the offense can now utilize a ton of different looks. But Matt Patricia is also going to be looking and seeing what Bill Belichick is going to do. So if Bill Belichick just runs with Cam Newton all the time, expect Matthew Stafford to just do a whole lot of QB draws this year because God forbid there's any originality. Then in extension news, you had Deshaun Watson signing a 4-year, $160 million extension, which is worth a total of $177.54 million, with nearly $111 million in guarantees. This means that he will make about $39 million per year in base. And he already had 2 years left on his current contract. And so now he's there for the next 6 years. And this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, Deshaun Watson is their most talented player and has literally saved that offense more times than I can count. And so while they have started to, improve and invest in the offensive line with getting guys like Tunsil, you have to also be like, hey, are you going to give the guy somebody to throw to? Because you got rid of that guy. Hopkins went bye-bye, because Will Fuller can produce. It's just, can he stay healthy? Randall Cobb, who I love to death, he's near the back 9 of his career. I wouldn't be surprised if they go after a wide receiver in this coming draft. And of course, you also have David Johnson in their running game, who, again, could be a sleeper this year, but you have to worry about injury concerns with him as well. But for now, Bill O'Brien looks like he has saved his job, and I'm sure Deshaun Watson will bail him out for years to come. And finally, on the extension front, you had the Bills going and locking up Tre'Davious White, their cornerback, with a 4-year, $70 million extension with $55 million guaranteed. That $55 million guaranteed is the most ever paid to a cornerback. And he's only 25 years old, so right now he is scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent when he is 31. And just to show the difference between his rookie deal and this year he was slotted to make a base of $1.8 million, which jumps up to $10.244 million next season. And this comes after he was threatening to opt out for this season, which would have been a huge blow to that defense. But this is well-deserved by Trey White, who is one of the best corners in the NFL, and this is going to keep that Bills defense really, really good for a while. So bring out your tables, boys. You're going to be jumping through a whole lot more. And then finally, I wanted to do this, but we were doing a million other videos. Mitch Trubisky the other day was named as the starter for the Chicago Bears. This news broke on Friday when I was doing the Q&A stream, and my response on Twitter was writing ha 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 until I couldn't list any more characters. And I still feel that way, but I feel like this is not terribly surprising because, listen, they went and got Nick Foles. They're going to pay him millions of dollars in guarantees. They traded a 4th-round pick for him, but I think the way that Trubisky has handled himself in camp and is willing to compete, this makes sense because this will just allow Mitch Trubisky to go out there and Matt Nagy go, oh, well, we tried when he sucks, and then they'll pull him and put in Nick Foles. Now, personally, I'm rooting for Mitch Trubisky. I am. I would love even more if he goes out there, doesn't do well, they put in Nick Foles, who also doesn't do well, and Trubisky winds up going to another team where he does really, really well, because that would just be, boop, the cherry on top of this beautiful cake. And I was really happy that I got to talk about the Deshaun Watson news in the same video as the Mitch Trubisky news, because Bears fans are totally, totally not upset about that. I mean, you saved cap space by not having to extend Watson. There's a positive. But yeah, when talking with Adam Rank, he's expected Trubisky to be the starter for a few weeks, and then they're going to bring Nick Foles in. But who knows? Maybe he'll be able to fight off Nick Foles for just a little bit longer. We'll see. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Anybody get overpaid here? You shocked about any of the re-signing news? Let me know what you think. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or Tom Grossi Comedy on all social media. See down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.